Hello everybody and welcome to episode 2 of Sailing Madness. Now if you're new here, welcome along. My name's David, and if you're back after episode 1, thanks for coming back and joining me again. Now they say that when you own a boat, the maintenance jobs never end. And as you know, I've only owned this yacht a few weeks and already I know that to be a very true fact. Because one of the jobs I want to tackle today is quite alarming. I've noticed there's some blue liquid coming up through the bilges. Now it's a very deep blue, I don't know what it is or where it's coming from. But I need to find out, and of course I need to get rid of it. Now it seems to be coming up through this bolt on this washer here, which is a bit alarming. Here, looking through some of the holes, I think there's I need to get to this area down below here. And good job I've purchased one of these pumps. Right, let's see what comes up. Oh. There's definitely something there, it's just a question of finding it. When I pull the hose back out, it does feel like there's some sort of oily substance between on it. It's just a question of finding it. Right, so the one area I want to check that fluid is not coming from is here in the engine bay. I need to satisfy myself that that blue fluid is not coolant. So I'm just having a look down here, first of all underneath the engine mounts, and there is absolutely no fluid down there whatsoever. In fact, it's lovely and dry, which is exactly as you'd expect. So that is good news. The reservoir for the coolant is up here. So as you can see, the coolant is between the minimum and the maximum. Just checking the hoses and the Jubilee clips both sides, all nice and dry. Looking down the heat exchanger again, there's no sign of any spillage. There's a couple of hoses down here, they're all nice and dry. The engine block is dry. It looks absolutely perfect down here. There is this, I'm not sure whether that's an overflow pipe or a breather pipe or something, but that runs down the other side. I need to check that, but looking at it, there's no blue fluid in there, so I think we're okay. But I'll just double check that in a moment. On the other side, I think what I will do though, just for belt and braces, I'm going to run the engine, because sometimes when an engine is just static like this, no fluids are running around it, so nothing's going to be spilling out. When the engine's running and all the fluids are running around, that's sometimes when you do get a leak. But I think if that was the case, you would see signs of it underneath the engine mounts, but there's nothing there. But just for my own peace of mind, I'm going to run the engine just for a couple of minutes and just double check again, make sure there's nothing coming out. But I think it's safe to say that that blue fluid is not engine coolant, and that is good news. I'm happy. Very dry down there, perfect. Just like it should be. Great news. Right, okay, so that's interesting. I've just dipped this tissue into the reservoir for the coolant, and as you can see, the coolant is green. So that rules out any leaks from the engine filling the bilges with that blue fluid. So that's good news. That's exactly as it should be in there. Perfect. The only problem is I'm still nowhere near finding out the source of that blue liquid. So do you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to put the kettle on and have a cup of tea. Nice tea. Okay, so the more I think about this, the more I think that that is actually a spillage. Something's leaked and it's got to the bottom there. I'm relieved that it's nothing from the engine, but what could it be? How did it get there? If you've got any ideas, I would love you to put your comments in the box below. Any suggestions how to get it out would also be grateful. I've ordered a new pump, an electric one, so that might be a little bit easier to get it out. That hand pump I bought was utterly useless. It was only £9. What do I expect? So the saga will continue once the new pump arrives, but for now there's nothing I can do about it apart from drink a nice cup of tea. Right, I haven't been able to resolve the problem with the blue water coming up through the keel bolts, so that's going to have to wait until I order an electric pump. But one of the other jobs I want to do on the boat today is to fit a battery monitor. Now, like most sailboat owners, I am paranoid about how much power my batteries consume and how long they're going to last when I'm not on shore power and when I'm out sailing. So this little baby here is going to give me some indication of how much power I've got left in my batteries. Now the big question is where am I going to fit it? Because as you know, trying to run cables through a boat is a nightmare, and on this particular boat there's not many places where the display can go, not in a location where I can get the cables to it easily enough. So I'm going to have a little play around and see where I think best that this is going to fit. Now as you can see, there's one or two places around the chart table here where it would fit nicely, maybe here underneath the VHF, but I'm a little bit nervous about drilling a hole through here because there's obviously a lot of wires that are running behind this that I could end up drilling through, and that would be an absolute disaster. I think what I might do is unscrew the fuse panel here and just see what's behind and then make a decision, maybe put it here. Okay, so I've decided there is space here for it, so as long as I can get this cable run from here down to where the batteries are under the starboard bench seat, then we're cooking on gas. That's going to be my first try, but whether I can run this down there remains to be seen. Good news, I've got it halfway. Well, after lots of faffing around, I've done it. Didn't think I was going to do that. Right, now for the tricky bit, the drilling. Right, so here's the bit I'm dreading. I've already marked out where it needs to go. Just there. Just there. Now it says in the instructions drill two 2mm holes. The smallest drill bit I've got is 3, so I'm just going to do just a little bit there just to get it going when I finally come to screw it on. I've also got to do a 5mm hole to get that cable through, and just to double check that it's nice and straight. I know this is what these dividers are not meant to be used for, but that is pretty accurate. So that's going to be nice and straight. That's going to go on there like that. Just need to work out where to drill this bigger hole now. It's a shame they couldn't give us a little template to put on here so you know where to drill this second somewhat larger hole. Yeah, I think that's there or thereabouts. I'm just going to start by drilling a very small hole. So another 3mm. Yeah, that's miles away from cables. Right, let's drill the bigger one. Right, so there we have it, it's installed. Now all we've got to do is just connect the wires. Right, that's those 4 on nice. Just check I haven't dislodged anything in there. Seems okay. Right, so it's down here at the battery end that things get a little bit more complicated. Here's the other end of our cable. Here's the good old British instruction booklet. And it is fairly straightforward. Just got to connect things to the right place in the battery and using the shunt that's been supplied. So I'm going to put that here, and I think we'll be cooking on gas. Right, let's get things connected up. Almost done. Right, well, as you can see, the job is done, everything's connected, and the display is working, which is great news. Now the problem is, reading the instructions, what you've got to do is you've got to tell the machine how many amp hours your batteries are, and to do that you have to unplug the fuse to power the whole thing down, and then reconnect the fuse whilst holding one of the buttons. The problem is, my arms aren't long enough to reach from here all the way down to where the batteries are. Right, it's been a couple of days. I'm now back on the boat, and as you can see, I'm armed with a new pump. Now this is an electric one. You just connect it to your battery terminals. So hopefully with this probe I'm going to be able to dig down underneath the bolts to see what that blue fluid is, and hopefully get the rest of it out. Okay, so I've removed the starboard bench seat cushion and got access to the battery compartment. So let's just plug it in. Now, the only thing is you haven't got much of a lead. Yeah, that's working. Now the moment of truth. Let's just see what's accumulated over the last couple of days since I've been away. Well, that's interesting, because down there it's as dry as a bone. Now there is a tiny little bit just here. I was expecting to see a lot more than that, so that's pretty good. I'm still going to prod around with the probe and see what that electric pump can bring up. It's obviously sucked up quite a bit of fluid, but now the bloody thing's stopped. Well, that didn't last long, did it? Bloody hell. There's definitely blue fluid under there though. With this probe, I can hear it swashing around in the water. Right, I'm back on the boat. It's been a couple of days and I've done some more shopping. This time I have purchased one of these vacuum pumps, which I'm hoping is now going to get rid of all that blue fluid that is down there. Now I've also been doing a little bit of thinking. I know now it's not engine coolant, but what could that blue fluid be? The only other explanation I can come up with is that it's come from the holding tank. Now I've never actually used the holding tank since I've had this boat, because I've always used the marina facilities. Literally up the steps and 20 yards across the road are the showers and the toilets for the marina. So when I've been on the boat, I've always used the facilities inside the marina. But there are some blue holding tank tablets that the previous owner left for me. Okay, now the holding tank is clean, I've checked it, but I'm thinking in the past maybe there's been a leak from the holding tank. Now you'd have thought that if that was disgusting stuff, then the boat would smell, but it doesn't. The boat does not smell at all. So all I can assume is that the holding tank, when it was cleaned out, maybe with fresh water, they put one of those blue tablets in, and that's what that is. It's not mixed with anything that's gone through a human body, which is why the boat doesn't smell. But just for precaution, I'm wearing gloves, I've got plenty of blue roll. Let's see what we can get up with this vacuum pump. Right, well, I think that is everything. I think I've got it all up. Certainly the majority of it anyway. As you can see, there's a good ½ litre of blue fluid in there. So what that blue fluid is, I haven't got a clue. I can only assume it is now from the holding tank. Like I said, I've not used the holding tank, but who knows, they might have had a leak in the past and that's just been sitting there for a long time. But I'm going to dry it all off, leave it for a couple of days. Next time I come to the boat, I'll check it again and I'll see where we are. Hopefully that's resolved the problem. And now I can't wait to go and wash my hands. Right, hello everybody. It's been a couple of days and I'm back on the boat, and here is the moment of truth. Now I've been back on the boat for about 10 or 15 minutes. and I've not had a look underneath the floorboards yet. I wanted to wait until the cameras were rolling, so I've not had a sneaky peek. So here we go. Is the bilge area down there nice and dry, or is there more blue liquid? Let's have a little look. Moment of truth. Oh, well, that is a surprise. And it's bone dry in there, absolutely bone dry. The good news is then, I've taken all that blue fluid out and got rid of it, but there are really two unanswered questions. Number one, what was that blue fluid? And number two, more importantly, where did it come from? The answers that we do know is, number one, that it's not coming from the outside of the boat in, so we're not sinking, so that's good news. Number two, it's not come from the engine, because I discovered that the coolant in the engine is that green coloured fluid. Now, I've worked on a lot of engines over the years, modern cars, vintage bus engines, and coolant has always been either pink or blue. I've never seen green coolant before. That was a first for me. So we know that blue fluid was not engine coolant. So the only explanation now I can come up with is that that blue fluid was from the holding tank. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to fill the holding tank with clean fresh water and see if anything leaks out. Now I know there's 3 hoses that lead in or out of that holding tank, and they have always been dry. I've had a feel around and I can't feel any wetness on them at all. Now those 3 hoses are, the first one comes from the head, that's nice and dry. The second one is the outlet, the gravity outlet that goes through the through hole and into the sea. Again, that hose is nice and dry. And then the third one is the pump out hose that comes in at the top, and again that's nice and dry as well. So let's do a little bit more investigation and see if I can answer some of those questions. Okay, so there you have it. The holding tank is now full, but as you can see, as soon as I started the job, the heavens opened and I am now absolutely drenched. So the plan is, leave that holding tank for a while, see if anything leaks out. While we're waiting though, I think it's time for a cup of tea, a change of clothes and get myself dry, but maybe not in that order. Right, well, I've dried myself off, I've changed my clothes and I've had a cup of tea. I've also left it a couple of hours since I filled that holding tank with fresh water. So now it's time to check to see if I can find any leaks. The first place I'm going to check is the through hole. Now the easiest way of getting to that is through the heads. Through the door at the other end, I can put my arm in, have a good feel around, and I can see and feel if anything feels wet. So that's what I'm going to do first. Okay, so that's interesting. I've just had a good feel at the bottom of the holding tank and the through hole, and it is wet. Now I don't know whether that's wet because of the rainwater or whether it's wet because the holding tank is leaking. So I think to investigate this further, the easiest way of getting to the rest of the holding tank is to clear the cockpit locker and have a good feel around in there. So that's what I'm going to do now. Fortunately, it has stopped raining now, so let's hope the rain holds off long enough for me to clear the locker, have a good look around and get everything put back again before everything gets soaking wet. Right, for the second time today, I've started a job in the dry. And for the second time today, as soon as I've started that job, the heavens have opened, so I have now got drenched twice. Don't you just love the British weather? Right, I've just had to rush getting everything back inside the cockpit locker, but I've had a good look underneath the tank. It's not leaking, so what I was feeling before was obviously just rainwater. So, where did that blue liquid come from? It can only have been a spillage. That's the only thing I can put it down to. So, I think that just about does it for Dave for this episode. Thank you for watching episode number 2. Keep watching, keep subscribing if you've enjoyed this video, and let's face it, if you are still here after all this time watching me faff around in the bilges, you must have enjoyed it. So please show your appreciation, hit that thumb and give me a like. Until next time, take care, bye bye.